Financial independence typically means having enough income to pay your living expenses for the rest of your life. Some people achieve this through saving and investing over many years, while others build successful businesses that can generate income. Probably all of us would love to be financially independent and live a life dedicated to what we love doing while generating huge amounts of income. There are, however, not many people in the world who are financially independent. Less than 1% of the world's population are financially independent. Dr. John Demartini is one of them. He is a successful entrepreneur and is here now with me in the studio to discuss ways to achieve financial independence. John, what does wealth mean to you, and what does it mean to you to be financially independent? Is it something you always wanted to achieve in your life?
First, I'd like to differentiate what I call genuine wealth from financial wealth. Mm-hmm. Genuine wealth can occur in any of the primary areas of life. I know individuals that are academics, that they have a vast amount of wealth sitting in intellectual property. They are not driven by financial means. Emolument doesn't mean much to them. They just want to academically solve and understand the way the world works. Mm-hmm. But they have a fortune in their knowledge. Other people have businesses. There's many people who have great businesses that are worth fortunes, but they personally aren't focused on financial independence. Then you have people that are absolutely wanting to build wealth, financial independence, financial wealth. Then there's family wealth, where you have this incredible children and somebody could offer you hundreds of millions of dollars and you'd say, no, I'll take my kids. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't sell them off for the cash because they're too valuable to you. Then you have social causes that have social networks, and they have massive amount of people in their network that if that was converted into capital, or financial capital, it'd be worth a fortune. People they know. And then you have people that are incredible looking or physically physique. I know of one woman that closed a deal on a billionaire recently. She was hot. She closed a deal on a billionaire. So she just went up $500 million by that marriage process. Sure. And then you got others that have inspiration, and they're spiritual leaders or whatever that really inspire people, and they end up having spiritual wealth. Mm-hmm. All of those forms of wealth can be converted into financial wealth if they're packaged and presented in some way. But not everybody has a real value on financial wealth. Mm-hmm. And money circulates, whatever the currency is. Money circulates through the economy from those who value it most to those who value it least. So everybody has genuine wealth, but not everybody has financial wealth, less than 1%. And the reason being is because they don't really have a value on saving and investing and doing the methodical things that actually buy assets. They have a desire, an immediate gratification to buy consumables that depreciate in value, so they're working their whole life for money instead of having it work for them. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's quite deep.
Yeah, because I had a gentleman named Michael Toms, yeah, who had a New Dimensions radio that reached 50 million people. And I got invited to come and do 2 shows on his shows. But he didn't want to do it on the phone, he had to do it live. So I had to take a limo from San Francisco to go down to the station. It's about 2 hours away. I got there, and he lived in the station. This man had 7 days a week, hours out of the day, a radio show him and his wife were doing every day for 48 years. This was a dedicated radio guy. Yeah. He lived in the studio. It was his studio. When I came in the back door, I walked through archives of 48 years worth of 8-hour-day radio archives, from big reels down to DATs to technology today. As I was walking down there, I saw interviews by the Beatles, interviews by presidents, Nixon. I saw the Rolling Stones. I saw Jimi Hendrix. All the great musicians, all the great stars, all the great politicians, anybody that was anybody, this guy's interviewed. And I thought, this is amazing, 50 million people I'm gonna reach today. At the end of my show, and after we filmed the first one live and the second one recorded, he handed me a sheet of paper and he says, I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to know if you'd like to donate to our foundation. And it was asking for $1, $5, $10, $20, or $50 denominations. And I started chuckling. I said, you're kidding. And he said, well, is that too much? I said, no, I just spoke to 50 million people. That's worth a fortune. I said, I'll pay you any amount for that. And he said, well, we just asked for whatever you can to keep us alive. We've been on this air. We're a charity to keep on the air. And I said, you're a billionaire and you're asking for pennies. He says, he looked at his wife, he says, we don't have any money. I said, your archives are worth $1 billion, but you're sitting on a fortune, but you've never packaged it. And you've never put it in a way where people can get access. It's just sitting there dormant. Have you considered packaging all this amazing information and footage you have and airtime? And he says, no, I don't. So here he was, a billionaire, literally $1 billion worth of assets. I mean, all the Nixon interviews that he did, all the president interviews, that in itself could be packaged and people would pay money for that. All the famous musicians, people pay a fortune for that. He had $1 billion worth of assets and couldn't see it because he didn't have a value on financial wealth. He had a value on intellectual property and social contribution. And that's not bad or good, there's no moral issue about it. But he was sitting on a fortune that he would never turn into cash because he didn't have a value on financial fortune.
So he didn't have a value on it, and he didn't maybe just know how to actually convert that into
Well, if you don't have a value on it, you won't
monetary
learn.
wealth.
You won't learn how to do it. So anyway, I told him, I said, why don't you package this and put it on the air and you'll never worry about asking for pennies again. And he goes, well, we'll consider that. Well, he then contacted Stanford University, and Stanford University digitalized the entire studio. Amazing project. And at the end, he called me and says, we digitalized the whole thing at Stanford. And I said, did you sign an agreement with them that they wouldn't be able to market that and package that? He goes, no. I said, well, then you just gave them $1 billion worth of assets. Oh, I didn't think about it. We just now have it up to date. And anyway, he passed away. And the person that took over the station finally packaged it and made it for $3, $5, whatever, to these little units, and is now finally commercializing it. Because money circulates through the economy from those who value it least to those who value it most, the person who took over the industry when he passed away is now turning it into cash flow. So he had intellectual property and social contribution now turned into cash flow. So there's a fortune sitting in everybody's lives, but they won't recognize it unless they have a value on actually financial wealth, which is the most universal form of value for people.
Do you think it comes down to mindsets and beliefs around money as well, to a large degree, that people are holding on to, that forces them not to see these opportunities of making money?
Well, if they don't value money and they have associations, money is evil, money is the root of evil, you know, you don't get through an eye of a needle unless if you have wealth, and it's more blessed to give than receive. If you have skewed views about money, then yeah, you'll have an unconscious motive to keep it from your life. And I always say it's not more blessed to give than to receive. It's more blessed to have fair exchange, because those are sustainable. If you do something and you have this, if a person pays exactly what they feel that they got, and it's fair, you're both going to want to continue to do business. So fair exchange is what's sustainable. And altruism or narcissism backfires. But by caring about humanity and making sure they're accountable to have a fair exchange, you grow, and both grow wealthy. So yeah, there's a lot of cliches that are not necessarily created by people that understand really what wealth is. And they're probably got hidden agendas for their own cause. And I think that educating people on that, I wrote a book called How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Get to Heaven, which is for that purpose, for people that may have been, you might say, tainted by ideas that money somehow is not magnificent. But I believe that money is a means of measuring the services you provide people. And it's a way of basically, if you do a service and they're grateful for it, and you do more service, you have more opportunities to be rewarded for it. So it doesn't have to have any negative or positive connotation. In the Book of Wealth by Hubert Hal Bancroft, which I was able to get a copy of and summarize, it's a rare collectible, he basically showed there were three things common to the wealthy people in the world. One is that they felt called by some sort of divine providence or human sovereignty that they were here to serve vast numbers of people, and that they cared about people and they served it, and they want to meet the people's needs. And I've found that that's absolutely true on the billionaires that I've met, that they really have some focus that they're trying to make a difference and serve people and meet a big need. They also have a feeling that they're destined to live the lifestyle of fortune. They believe that they're worth it. They believe that that's their destiny. And they also have transcended the moralities of money, because people get caught in money's good or money's evil. Money's just a neutral vehicle of fair exchange for people. If you make it good, you get infatuated with it, you probably won't manage it wisely. If you make it bad, you'll try to avoid it, and you won't manage it wisely. But if you see that it's simply a measuring mechanism, a necessary component in the economy to make fair exchange. At one time, before we had a social class, we didn't need money, because if you did a service, somebody could do a service and you just exchanged. But once you got a complex society where there's different layers of society and different needs, if you grew tomatoes and another person made furniture, and you had more tomatoes than to give people, but they don't need the tomatoes. They can't eat that many tomatoes. You can't exchange it. So there had to be a universal medium for money to occur, so there could be a fair exchange. That's the purpose of money, is actually to maintain equanimity within the person and equity between people and fair exchange. That's what its purpose is. Once you understand that, there's no negative connotation to money. It's just a means of helping you master the art of making sure you do a fair exchange. And when you understand that, then, and you care about humanity and care about making some sort of difference, there's no limit on the money that you can earn in life.
John, for someone who is just thinking, okay, I hear him, I want to get out of where I am right now, I want to get onto the path of financial independence, and my finances are in a mess. How do I begin? Is taking care of the debt an important step in
Yes.
changing your spending habits and the
Well,
manner in which you approach money?
If you're living beyond your means, you're going to keep getting, because you're living in a fantasy about how the lifestyle you want without actually doing the service that provides the lifestyle. So I'm a person that says I don't raise the lifestyle unless I raise my savings and taxes equal amounts. I followed that for 35 years. I don't raise my lifestyle unless I raise my savings and taxes equal amounts. So if I want to go and, let's say, get a car, and I don't drive, but let's say I was going to get a car, and it's $1,000 a month or 10,000 Rand or something. If I'm not willing to put another $1,000 or 10,000 Rand into my savings and another 10,000 into taxes, I'm not ready to buy that car. It's a check and balance system to make sure that I don't exceed it and then burden myself with things. Because many people go out there and they want to buy consumables that depreciate in value. People that value wealth make sure that they put their money into something that grows in value. And people that don't value wealth buy things that go down in value. And so if you keep buying things that go down in value, you're going backwards, and you're working your life for money, and you're a slave. If you keep buying things that go up in value, you're now its master, and it's going to start working for you. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So knowing the difference and making sure that you buy things that go up in value, and that's where saving comes in. If my dad taught me when I was 9 a savings, he bought me a coin collection set to start me savings. Then he bought me a piggy bank. In my office in Houston, Texas right now, on the 52nd floor of the Williams Tower, is the original piggy bank he gave me when I was 9 years old in 1963. It has got the original coins. It has never been opened, and it was a metaphor for me to remember to think long term. Immediate gratification and buying that quick fix thing to get immediate brand of another person's brand instead of building your own brand is a way of going backwards financially.
Sure.
But you have to be willing to save and invest in yourself, because until you value, the world's not going to value you.
John, you're financially independent. You're a wealthy person, but you worked hard to get where you are today. When did you achieve financial independence?
Well, financial...
After how many years of actually putting in a lot of effort and dedication to your cause?
It took me almost a decade. It took me about 9 years to get to that point. And then it grew with that, and I allowed myself a lifestyle to go up as long as I'm doing this model. But it was about 9 or 10 years. I've had many people in my programs that I've taught about wealth building. The fastest I've seen it is about 4 years. The longest I've seen taken is about 17 years. But if a person methodically does it, usually 7 to 10 years, they're on their way to having financial independence.
So it doesn't matter what age you are at right now,
I've
40,
seen people,
50, 60, you can still get onto that path.
I've seen somebody 72 years old become financially independent.
So it's not just about investing in assets, it's just about how you see wealth and how you
Well, there's different ways of doing
value
it.
money?
Yeah, there are some people that do it by growing a business and feeding that business and growing it and then selling the business. That's a little bit risky because you've got all your eggs in that one basket. And I usually ask people to diversify it in addition to that. But other people just constantly buy stocks, or they start buying real estate, and they start using gearing and leverage. And the more educated and sophisticated they become about it, the more rapidly they can do it. I don't find it immediately overnight. That happens sometimes. You hear about cases like that, but that's rare. Most of them are methodical, consistent, patient, conservative individuals that keep putting away their money and making it work for them, and looking for opportunities and making sure that they're conservative. Warren Buffett used to say that, rule number 1 is don't lose the money. Rule number 2 is don't forget that rule number 1. Don't put your money into something that you can gamble it away. And some people want a quick fix instead of a long-term solution. And I'm a firm believer. I've been conservative, and I've been blessed by that, Because a lot of my friends that always were looking for the pie in the sky things, they never got it. I just was the turtle, the guy that just kept methodically putting away and saving money and increasing my savings. And every time somebody would take me to dinner and I planned on paying for it and they took it, grabbed it, I'd say, well, I was going to pay for that, so whatever that amount is, put it in savings. I was looking for every opportunity to have my money work for me.